Adding to Illustrator's arsenal of reshaping tools are the Scale, Skew, and Reshape tools. These tools offer benefits not available with other methods of transforming. In this video, we'll take some artwork and apply transformations to it. In this document, I'm going to go ahead and select the Scale tool, which is located in my Tools panel at this location. The shortcut for this tool is the S key on your keyboard. With any other tool selected, if I press the letter S on my keyboard, it'll activate that tool. Now, before I actually use this Scale tool, I'm going to use my Magic Wand tool to click on one of these lighter blue shaded objects to select all of them at the same time. Now I can press the letter S on my keyboard to activate the Scale tool. The Scale tool works much the same way as other transformation tools in that it automatically places a transformation point. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this. It automatically inserts a transformation point in the middle of the object. What I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit, and because my transformation point is at this location, it'll become my pivot point. So using this Scale tool, I'm going to click anywhere outside here. Oftentimes, the further outside you click, the more control you get. So I'm going to click and drag. Remember, you don't want to just click because that'll reestablish the reference point. We're going to click and drag, and as I do, you can see that this object is scaling down. If I drag outwards, it'll scale it up. But while I'm dragging inwards, I'm going to add the Shift key to that. So I'll hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, as well as the Alt key or Option key to make a copy. And once I scale this down a little bit, I'm going to release my mouse button, and that's going to make a copy of that entire object. So as you can see, the Scale tool is very easy to use. Now I'm going to press Command-0 on Mac or Control-0 on Windows. I'm going to grab my selection tool and marquee this entire piece of artwork. With the Scale tool selected, once again, I'm going to click out here and drag outward while holding down the Shift key to scale this whole entire object up. Let go of the mouse button, and that will scale this object up to the size that I had defined. Another way to scale an object is to Option click or Alt click on Windows to define your transformation point, but to also bring up the Scale dialog box. This is actually very useful because you can define a specific percentage to scale your object to. And in addition, you can scale in a non-uniform manner if you want. But what's really useful is the ability to scale strokes and effects when scaling an object. This is one of those areas where the Scale tool really shines because using these options, I can scale strokes along with the object as a whole, and I can also scale patterns that have been applied to any of those shapes also. So if you have any pattern swatches applied to any objects within your artwork, those patterns can be scaled as well. I'm going to cancel out of that for now. And we're going to click and hold on the Scale tool to grab the Shear tool. The Shear tool basically allows us to skew an object. The way that this tool works is you also define a transformation point. So I'm actually going to come down here and I'm going to click on this anchor point right there. And it's not going to actually do anything other than establish the transformation point. You can see that that point is now defined. And the way that the Shear tool works is that if I click out here and drag to the right, I'm going to shear this object in this direction. If I shear to the left, again, I'll shear it in that direction. And you can really do some amazing things with this tool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shear this object. And you want to be careful because you can really distort this to an extreme extent. If it's not quite working out for you, you can just let go of your mouse button and then undo. And we just try again. So once again, I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to drag to the right and down because I'm trying to create basically a cast shadow for this object. Now before I release the mouse button, I'm going to add my Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows to make a copy of this object. And once it's at the shape that you would like it to be, release your mouse button, and Illustrator is going to make a copy of that entire object. Now because I want it to be a shadow, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'd like you to go to the Window menu and choose Pathfinder, and we're going to click on this first shape mode, which is Unite. By clicking on that, I'm basically merging all those objects into one. We can now close the Pathfinder panel, and in the Swatches panel, change the fill color to a black color. Close the Swatches panel. I'm going to go to the Object menu and choose Arrange, Send to Back to send this object behind my main artwork. We're now going to apply an effect to this object. If you go to the Effect menu, under Blur, I'm going to choose Gaussian Blur. I'm going to change my setting to about 22, and then click the OK button. And because this is an effect, it's going to take a few seconds to apply it. That looks pretty good. Now one last thing is we're going to go to our Transparency panel and reduce the opacity a little bit. Maybe 75% looks good. Close that Transparency panel. And that's how the Skew tool can help you when transforming artwork in your document. Now the last tool that we're going to go over is the Reshape tool. And to show you the Reshape tool, I'm simply going to move over here to the side, and I'm going to grab the Spiral tool. And with this Spiral tool, I'm just going to click and drag to pull out a spiral. If you want to add some segments, you can use the up arrow key, or if you want to remove some segments, you can use the down arrow key. So that looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to give myself plenty of room, and I'm going to apply a stroke to this object. Maybe I'll make this stroke dark blue like the other artwork. And I'm going to increase my stroke value to about 3 points. Close the Swatches panel. And now I can show you the Reshape tool. Now the Reshape tool only works on open paths. So it's important to understand that, this is an open path. Closed paths, you really won't get much of an effect using that Reshape tool. So if I click and hold on what's currently the Shear tool and choose the Reshape tool, I'm going to come over here and we can see that there currently all the points on the path are selected. And if you want to double check to make sure that this is working, you can grab your selection tool, deselect the object, then click on it again to make sure the whole object is selected. Now we'll grab the Reshape tool, and I'm going to click once on this end point to establish a reference point. Now, if I click and drag on that reference point and drag outwards, you can see that the Reshape tool is trying to maintain the proportions to this object. If you've been using Illustrator for a little while, you'll note that the Direct Selection tool would only move that one anchor point. The Reshape tool, in contrast, is trying to move all of those points in proportion to one another. So as you can see, we could create some really interesting spiral effects using this Reshape tool, and you can really just keep experimenting to see the different effects you can achieve. And that's how the Reshape tool can be used to modify different areas. You don't have to only click on this point. You can click on any point on the path or any line segment on the path, and it'll add a reference point. Now I can click on that and drag that portion, so you can see it's keeping this endpoint stationary, but it's now manipulating other areas in proportion. I'm going to go ahead and delete that object. Another nice way that the Reshape tool can be used is if I just drag out a regular line segment. With this Reshape tool, I can hover over this open path, and if I click and drag, I can reshape this object. Now, if anybody is watching this video and familiar with Flash, you'll be familiar with this behavior, because this is how Flash's interactive drawing works. So we can reshape an object and really experiment with this and play around with it. You can hold down the Option key or the Alt key to make a copy of the object as well. So as you can see, these transformation tools offer their own set of features, somewhat unique at times, but still a huge time saver when the need arises.